The market was loud and full of aliens shouting, laughing, and trading. Strange smells filled the air, some sweet, some rotten. In the middle of the space station, a slave auction was happening. Beings from all across the galaxy gathered to watch. But in one dark corner of the platform, a single figure sat silently. She was chained to a metal post, her head hanging low, her long silver hair covering her face. Her skin was pale purple, her eyes closed, and her body looked weak, almost lifeless. "She's blind," one alien whispered, pointing, "and crippled too. She can't even stand." "No one will buy that thing," another laughed. "She's just broken trash." The auctioneer, a fat, three-eyed alien, banged his metal staff. "Next!" he shouted. "One rare specimen, royal blood. Once a princess of the Varelian Empire. Now blind, disabled, but still young. Who will start the bid?" The crowd went silent. Nobody moved. Nobody wanted her. She stayed still like she didn't even hear them. But deep inside, her heart was breaking. She could hear everything, the cruel words, the laughter, the whispers. She used to be powerful, loved, respected. Now she was nothing but a joke. The auctioneer coughed. "All right then, starting at 10 credits. No response. 5 credits. Still nothing. 1 credit. Silence. The auctioneer's face twisted. In anger. "Fine, take her for free. Just get this useless thing off my platform." The crowd laughed again. Some threw rotten fruit at her. One alien even kicked her side gently with his boot, testing if she'd react. She didn't. She couldn't. Her arms and legs barely worked anymore, and her eyes hadn't seen light in years. That's when someone stepped forward. Boots clicked on the metal floor. Everyone turned to look. It was a human. He was tall, with a strong build and calm eyes. A scar ran across his cheek. He wore a worn-out military jacket with a strange symbol on the sleeve. His name was Sergeant Lucas Rain, a former soldier. "Now a wanderer. I'll take her," he said in a quiet voice. The auctioneer blinked. "You." "What?" Lucas walked closer to the chained princess and crouched down. He didn't touch her. He just looked at her face, calm, sad, broken. "I said," he repeated, "I'll take her." The crowd began to murmur. Some laughed. Others gasped. "Why would a human want that? She's blind. She's useless." "Maybe humans have strange tastes," the auctioneer chuckled. "Are you sure, soldier? There are stronger, healthier slaves inside. You don't want to waste your time with this one." Lucas didn't answer him. Instead, he looked at the girl. "What's her name?" he asked. The auctioneer shrugged. "Does it matter?" "She doesn't talk. Doesn't move. But her tag says Serena. Probably fake." Lucas nodded. "Serena, then." He stood up and dropped a few credits on the table. "Give me the keys." Still laughing, the auctioneer tossed him a small metal device. "Don't blame me when she dies tomorrow," he said. Lucas ignored him. He stepped toward the girl and slowly knelt down again. She didn't react. Gently, he unlocked the chains from her wrists and ankles. Her skin was cold. Her body didn't move, but her lips parted. Just slightly, like she was trying to say something. Lucas picked her up in his arms. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. As he carried her away, people stared. Some shook their heads. Others took pictures. "What a waste," someone muttered. But Lucas didn't care. He wasn't doing it for attention. He wasn't doing it out of pity. Something in her still felt alive to him, some spark, some pain, and he understood pain. He had seen too much war, too much death. He had lost his own family once. He knew what it felt like to be left behind. Back in his small ship, Lucas gently laid her on a soft bed. He covered her with a blanket and placed a bottle of water nearby. She didn't move. He sat beside her and spoke softly. "I don't know who you were, or what they did to you, but you're not trash. You're not forgotten. Not anymore." There was no answer, but as Lucas stood to leave, He thought he heard something. A breath. A tiny whisper. "Why? Me?" He turned around. She hadn't moved. But her lips were shaking. He smiled, just a little, because no one else did. And with that, the door closed behind him, leaving her warm, safe, and for the first time in years. Not alone. The ship was quiet, far away from the noisy market, from cruel stares and laughter. The only sound inside was the soft hum of power flowing through the walls. Serena lay on a soft bed still, silent, barely breathing. She didn't know. Where she was, she couldn't see. She couldn't move, but the air around her felt different. No burning metal, no chains biting her skin, no voices calling her broken, just warmth, and something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. Lucas watched her from the corner of the room. He didn't speak. He didn't touch her. He simply waited. He placed a bowl of soup beside the bed. Steaming, gentle, full of smell. He didn't expect her to eat. He just wanted her to know it was there. Hours passed. She didn't move. He stepped out, letting her rest. But behind the door, he could still hear it. A faint sound, like soft crying. She was trying not to let him hear, but he did. He leaned against the wall, closing his eyes. "I know that sound," he whispered to himself. It was the sound of someone pretending to be strong while breaking inside. The next morning, Lucas returned. He brought clean water, soft clothing, and even turned on the heating just a little more. He placed everything where she could find it, then sat again, quietly. She didn't speak. She didn't move. But when he reached for the empty soup bowl, it was gone. Clean. She had eaten it. Lucas smiled, just slightly. A win. Later that day, an old friend of his, Drax, a merchant, sent message through the comms. "You picked up that thing?" Drax laughed through the screen. "Lucas, she's blind, man. Can't even walk. Can't even look at you." Lucas replied calmly, "Doesn't mean she doesn't feel." Drax scoffed. "You think she's going to fall in love with you or something?" "No," Lucas said. "I just think she deserves more than a cage." Drax rolled his eyes. "You're too soft, brother." Lucas ended the call. He turned and looked at her again. She hadn't said a word since yesterday. She hadn't opened her eyes, but he noticed something. Her hand had moved, just an inch closer to the edge of the bed. She was trying to reach something. Maybe hope. Maybe him. That night, Lucas sat beside her again. This time he spoke softly. "I don't know what happened to you," he said, "but I know pain. I know betrayal. I know what it feels like when no one wants you." Still no answer, but the blanket around her shifted slightly. She was listening. He leaned closer. "Your name is Serena, right?" A long silence. Then, "Yes." It was just one word, one breath, but it filled the room with more power than 1,000 shouts. He smiled. "I'm Lucas," he said gently. She didn't respond again, but her lips trembled. Her voice was dry. Weak. But alive. He didn't push. He didn't ask questions. He just stayed. The next morning, something happened that surprised him. When he placed the bowl of soup on the table again, she lifted her arm slowly, shaking, and reached for it. Fingers trembled. She dropped the spoon twice. Soup spilled on her lap. But she tried, and for the first time, Lucas reached out, not to take control, but to guide her. His hand touched hers, warm and strong, wrapping around her thin fingers, helping her hold the spoon steady. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "You can let go," she whispered. Lucas shook his head. "Only when you're ready." She was quiet. Then she said, "You're different." Lucas smiled. "You're not the first one to tell me that." That evening, she asked a strange question. "What color is the sky now?" Lucas blinked. "Blue," he said softly. "Clear, with 3 moons visible through the side window." She smiled barely. "I forgot what blue looks like." He leaned closer. "Would you like me to describe it?" Serena nodded. And for the next hour, he did. He spoke about clouds, stars, sunsets, rain, and fire. She listened as if every word painted pictures in her mind. When he finished, she whispered, "I thought I was invisible. But you see me, Lucas." Didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because in that quiet room, the truth didn't need words. She wasn't invisible anymore. The scent reached her before anything else. Warm, savory, soft steam touched her cheeks as she sat upright. Propped up by pillows Lucas had carefully arranged behind her back. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel cold. She turned, her head toward the smell, her long silver hair falling over one shoulder. Lucas stood silently across the room, watching. He hadn't said a word since entering. He just waited. Would she reach for the bowl again? Would she speak? Would she move? Serena's hands rested in her lap, fingers curled slightly from weakness. But her nose twitched gently. "It's the same as yesterday," she whispered. Lucas smiled. "You remembered." She nodded slowly. The scent, it was comforting. He walked over, placed the bowl on the table beside her. "Chicken soup," he said. "Simple. Human food." She gave a tiny, tired smile. "I used to have food servants bring golden meals in crystal bowls. Now I smell soup, and it makes me feel safe." Lucas knelt next to her. He held out the spoon. "Want help?" This time, she raised her hand slowly, trembling, but determined. "I'll try," she said, and she did. She spilled only a little. Lucas didn't laugh. He didn't even move. He just stayed close. When she finished the first few spoons, she paused and gently turned her head toward him. "Thank you." Lucas blinked. "For what?" "For feeding me. For not treating me like an object." He didn't respond right away. Then he said softly, "You're not an object. You're a person. Even if others forgot that." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "They didn't just forget. They wanted me gone." Later, Lucas walked her to the small window in the ship. He placed her fingers gently on the glass. "It's cold," she whispered. "It's space." He replied, "But out there, it's quiet. No shouting. No judgment." She sighed. "I used to look at the stars every night from my tower. I dreamed of running away from the palace. Now I dream of walking to the next room." Lucas didn't speak. He just stayed beside her, his presence steady, warm. Then, suddenly, her voice dropped low. "There's something you should know." He turned toward her. "What is it?" "I wasn't just a princess," she said slowly. "I was supposed to become queen. The next ruler." He waited. "My own blood betrayed me," she continued. "They said I was weak, that I'd ruin the empire, so they blinded me, poisoned my limbs, and threw me away like garbage." Lucas clenched his fists. Serena touched the glass again. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," she whispered. "Because someone should listen." He answered. She turned her head in his direction. "If I asked you something impossible, would you say no?" Lucas tilted his head. "Try me." She hesitated. Then asked, "Can you describe what I look like?" Lucas blinked. She had never asked before. He stepped closer, gently brushing her hair back. "Your skin is soft violet." He said, "Your hair is silver, like moonlight. Your eyes, they're closed, but I imagine they'd glow." She smiled sadly. "No one's ever described me like that, not even when I was whole." "You were always whole," Lucas replied. "They just refused to see it." She trembled, not from fear, from emotion. That night, Lucas sat outside her room, leaning against the door. He didn't sleep. He kept listening. At one point, he thought he heard soft humming, a lullaby. He closed his eyes. Maybe she was starting to return, not to who she was before, but to someone even stronger. The next morning, Serena was already sitting upright when he entered. She turned her head toward the door the moment it opened. "I heard your steps," she said. Lucas smiled. "You're getting sharp." "I want to do more," she said firmly. I want to walk. I want to feel the ground under my feet. He stepped forward. Then we start today. She reached out her hand, and for the first time, he took it. The floor felt strange, hard, cold, real. Serena stood with trembling legs, her hand tightly holding Lucas's. Her knees shook. Her feet, weak from years of disuse, barely responded. But she was standing, for the first time in years. She wasn't lying down, waiting to be forgotten. Lucas didn't say anything. He just stood beside her, letting her lean on him as much as she needed. I feel like a baby again, Serena whispered, her voice shaky. Then let's take baby steps, Lucas said with a soft grin. Her lips curled just a little. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. He placed one of her feet forward, then the other. Her body leaned heavily against him, but she didn't fall. She walked 3 steps, then collapsed into his arms. He carried her back to the chair near the ship's console. Her breath was fast. Her hands were sweaty, but her eyes, though still blind, were full of fire. I did it, she whispered. You did, he said. And you'll do it again, tomorrow? She asked. Lucas shook his head. In 10 minutes, she blinked. 10 minutes? He nodded. Queens don't rest too long. She laughed for the first time. It was soft. Unsure, but it was. Laughter. Later that day, Lucas brought her something wrapped in cloth. She touched it, confused. What is it? She asked. Something I made last night, he said. It's not pretty, but it works. She unwrapped it slowly, her fingers, feeling the shape. Wood, straps, a carved handle, a walking stick. She guessed. A balance staff, he corrected. You don't need to be reminded of your weakness. This is your strength now. She gripped it tight. And then, without help, she stood. Not perfectly. Not tall, but she stood on her own. Lucas watched. In silence, proud but still calm. He didn't clap. He didn't cheer. He just nodded. Because this wasn't about praise. It was about her return. That evening, as stars lit up outside the ship's windows, Serena asked him a strange question. Do I scare you? Lucas turned to her, confused. Why would you scare me? Because of what I used to be, she whispered. And what I might become again. He looked at her face, the quiet strength behind her words. I'm not afraid of what you were, he said, and I believe in what you can become. She touched her chest lightly. I forgot how that feels, being believed in. Then she leaned closer. Lucas, can I touch your face? He nodded. She reached out, fingers gently brushing his chin, then his jaw, then his cheekbones. She smiled. So that's the face of the only man who ever stayed. He chuckled. Not much to look at. You feel honest, she said. Warm, tired eyes. Scar, left cheek. He froze. You noticed? I sensed it. Scarred men recognize scarred souls. There was silence between them. Not cold silence. Comfortable. Full of words left unspoken. Later that night, she sat on her bed, running her fingers over the walking staff again. It wasn't royal gold. It wasn't covered in jewels. But it was hers, made by someone who saw her not as a burden, but as someone worth standing again. And deep inside her chest, somewhere she thought was dead, her heart moved. Not her legs. Not her hands, her heart. One slow, powerful step toward trust, toward healing, toward him. The station market was crowded again. Lucas hated crowds, but Serena had insisted. I want to feel the world again, she had said, gripping her staff tightly. So, here they were. People stared. Some whispered. Others pointed. She's still alive, someone muttered. That crippled princess, said another. Must be a pet now. A third one laughed. Serena heard them, every word, but she didn't flinch. Not anymore. Lucas walked beside her, alert but silent. He kept a protective eye on the vendors, the shadows, the shifting faces in the crowd. They reached a small trader's stall. Lucas began checking tools. Needing spare parts for the ship. Serena stood quietly beside him, hands resting on her wooden staff. That's when the voice came loud, mocking. Well. Look what the human dragged in. A tall alien with blue armor stepped forward. His gang followed close behind. Serena turned her head slightly. Her lips stayed closed. Lucas narrowed his eyes. Keep walking, he said calmly. The alien smirked. Or what? Gonna send your blind little doll to stop me? His friends laughed. Lucas stayed quiet. He knew this type bullies with nothing better to do. The alien leaned in close to Serena's ear and whispered, You used to sit on a throne. Now you follow a human like a lost pet. Is that what he calls you, pet? That's when it happened. A kofa. Loud crack echoed through the market. Serena had struck. She slammed the end of her walking staff into the ground hard. Her head turned toward the alien with eerie precision, though her eyes were still blind. You will not speak to him like that, she said, her voice suddenly sharp, royal, commanding. The laughter stopped. Everyone froze. Lucas stared. The alien scoffed, stepping back. You don't scare me, princess. Serena lifted her chin. Then, you should. Lucas stepped forward to shield her, but she raised a hand. No, she said. Let them hear me. And she spoke louder. To the fools who left me in chains. To those who whispered that I was broken. I am still here. I am not a toy. I am not trash. And he, she pointed toward Lucas, is the only one who treated me like a person. Silence. The market held its breath. The alien took another step. Just one. Lucas moved forward without warning and punched him hard in the jaw. The alien dropped. No one else dared move. Back on the ship, Serena sat quietly, sipping warm tea. Lucas leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So, he said, you're terrifying when you want to be. She smiled. I was a queen in training once. I still remember how to use my voice, he chuckled. That walking stick is dangerous in your hands. She turned her head toward him. I didn't do it for me. Lucas raised an eyebrow. No? I did it for you, she said. Because no one ever defended you either, did they? Lucas was quiet. She was right. He had been forgotten too. A soldier left behind after peace was declared. A hero with nowhere to go. I don't care what they call me, she whispered. I care what you see when you look at me. Lucas stepped closer. I see someone who won't stay down. She reached out for his hand. He took it, gently. You gave me the strength to rise, she said softly. Let me give it back. Later, in the dark of night, Lucas stood alone in the hallway, looking out the window at the stars. He thought about the moment she had spoken, the way her voice shook. The air, she wasn't weak. She never was. They had just been too blind to see her. Now, even without her vision, she could see more than most. And for the first time in years. So could he. Lucas sat alone in the engine room, surrounded by metal and humming lights. His fingers were dirty, his mind busy. But not with wires. With her, with Serena, her voice still echoed in his ears, strong, proud, fearless. The same woman who couldn't walk weeks ago had stood tall in front of a crowd and defended him. He stared at a small device lying on the table, a half-broken medical scanner he had found in storage days ago. It was old, but functional enough. He didn't tell her, not yet. He had been scanning her quietly, checking her vitals while she slept. And now, finally, the results flashed across the screen. Optic nerves, damaged, but not dead. Neural link, blocked, not destroyed. Spinal signal, partially restorable. Lucas blinked. Sat back, his heart started racing. She might not be blind forever. She might even walk on her own again. But there was a cost. The healing pod could restart her nerves, but it might burn out her sense of touch forever. Her ability to feel warmth, pressure. Even his hand. It was a gamble. He stared at the screen, then whispered to himself, Do I tell her or protect her from hope? That night, she was sitting on the floor with her walking staff, tracing its edges slowly. I heard you working, she said. Lucas walked in slowly. Yeah, you were thinking loud again, she added with a smile. He sighed and sat across from her. Need to tell you something, he said. Her smile faded. She turned her head toward his voice. I scanned your eyes, he continued, and your spine. I had to know. She stayed silent. There's a chance, he said softly. Not a big one, but maybe, with the right treatment, you could see again. Her lips parted, but no words came out. You might even walk without support, he added. But she tilted her head. But if it fails, he said slowly, you might lose something else. She swallowed hard. What? Your sense of touch. Maybe forever. The room fell into deep silence. Only the hum of the ship filled the air. After a long time, she asked, will I still be able to feel your hand if it goes wrong? Lucas didn't lie. No. She lowered her head, thinking. He moved beside her, took her hand gently. You don't have to decide now. But she whispered. I already did. He looked at her in surprise. I want to try, she said. I want to see again. I want to walk again. Even if it means I won't feel your hand. At least I'll see your face once. Lucas's throat tightened. Why? Why risk it? She smiled. Because you gave me back my life, she whispered. Now let me choose what to do with it. The healing pod was old dusty and flickered when powered up, but Lucas had repaired it carefully. She stepped in slowly, holding his hand one last time. Are you afraid? He asked. She nodded. Yes, but I want this. He closed the door. Gently. Lights inside turned blue. The pod hissed. Gas filled the chamber. Her body relaxed. Her heart stayed strong. Lucas stared through the glass as the machine did its work. 1 hour. 2 hours. Then silence. The lights died. The door opened with a slow hiss. Serena didn't move. Serena? Lucas called out. No answer. His chest tightened. He stepped forward, ready to pull her out. Then her fingers switched. Then her eyes opened. They were glowing. Soft blue light shimmered in her pupils. She blinked, then looked directly at him. Lucas froze. Lucas? She whispered. He nodded, stunned. You have tired eyes, she said, tears forming, and a scar on your left cheek. He smiled, eyes wet. You can see me. She reached forward instinctively, then stopped. I can't feel your hand. He took hers in his gently. She couldn't feel the warmth, but she could see the kindness in his eyes, and that was enough. I'm not broken anymore, she whispered. Lucas shook his head. You were never broken. She smiled, and this time fully. Serena stood by the ship's viewing window, both hands resting against the cool glass. She wasn't holding her walking staff anymore. She didn't need it. The stars outside were no longer just imagined shapes in her mind. They were real now. Lights, color, distance. Everything had changed, but not everything. Lucas still stood behind her, watching like he always had. Quiet, patient, present. And though her fingers could no longer feel the warmth of his hand, her eyes knew, glowing, saw something deeper. Something stronger. Your hair, she said softly, not turning around. It's a mess. Lucas chuckled. Told you it gets worse when I'm nervous. She finally turned to face him. Why are you nervous? She asked. He hesitated, then spoke with honesty. Because you're not the same girl I carried out of that auction. Serena's lips curved into a soft smile. And you're not the same man who rescued me, either. He looked down. I'm afraid I'll lose you now. She stepped toward him, slow, graceful steps, her own steps. When she reached him, she placed her hand on his chest. She couldn't feel the beating beneath her palm, but she could see the way he looked at her. And that was enough. You didn't rescue me, she said. You reminded me I was still alive. That I still had a name, that I could still choose. Tears welled in her eyes. Now let me choose you. Lucas's heart thudded. You mean that? He asked, his voice low. She nodded. You saw me before I saw myself. You waited when I was silent. You carried me when I couldn't walk. You spoke gently when I was afraid. And now. She reached up and touched the side of his face. Her fingers couldn't feel his skin, but her eyes could see the softness in his eyes. Now I want to walk beside you. Lucas swallowed hard, and for once, he didn't know what to say. So he didn't say anything. He just wrapped his arms around her. She couldn't feel the hug, but she saw how tightly he held her, and she smiled into his shoulder. Later, Serena stepped outside the ship for the first time since her healing. The world greeted her with light, sound, and freedom. Aliens on the station turned to stare, but this time, they didn't whisper, they didn't laugh, because they saw the tall, glowing-eyed woman walking confidently beside a human man who had once been invisible to them, and together, they looked unstoppable. As the stars rose again behind the glass, Serena leaned against Lucas. Do you know what I see now? She asked. He looked at her. Tell me. I see a future. He smiled. With me in it? She turned her head, her silver hair glowing in the starlight. You are the future I saw, even when I couldn't see.